All righty. Well, thank you for the patience, everybody, and welcome back to our continued coverage of the Scrabble Players Championship from South Bend, Indiana. This is round three, and we're going to bring you Will Anderson versus Joel Wapnick. This is going to be an awesome game. If you're unfamiliar with Will Anderson, just search his name on YouTube. He's got the biggest Scrabble social media presence this sport has ever had. He's got an awesome channel with informative educational Scrabble videos. He's also an awesome Scrabble player. He's won the NWL division of this tournament before back in 2017 and came very close to making it to the finals of a world championship. Joel Wapnick is no stranger to high level play either. He's got accolades out the wazoo and has been playing for a very long time. He hails from Canada. So we'll get a little US-Canada matchup after the international flair we saw last round. And with that, play is underway. Matt Canik joined this morning by Mike Frentz in the booth. Mike, tell us what you know about Joel Wapnick.
Joel has been one of the best players in the game for multiple decades now. I know for a longest time he was the only player to have attended the first X number of nationals, however many that was. I believe that streak got interrupted by COVID, though I'm not sure of that. But yeah, former national champion, former world champion. Yeah. If we had a Scrabble Hall of Fame, he would be one of the first names to be considered. And he goes up against one of the best of today in Will Anderson, another person who also would be in that discussion.
Yeah, just two titans of the sport here, and Will facing an interesting decision on the first turn. Three high-scoring plays: Jambu, Jabiru, and Jumar, all five-letter plays with the J that score over 40 points. But this one, I think his best option, Jambu. Just got to get rid of that clunky stuff and try to avoid exposing a vowel next to a double letter score. So Jambu, the play from Will. We're off to the races. Beosvx, the rack for Joel. So I think we'll see the J and then the X cashed in on back-to-back turns here. VOX beneath Jambu, making JO and AX. Looks to be by far the best play here for Joel.
And note that Jabiru would have worked out poorly, as it would put the I and U between two double letter scores, allowing Joel to cash in the X for 4x its value as opposed to just 2 here.
Yeah, this is a perfect scenario in why, for novice players, you're always taught to avoid putting a vowel next to a blue square if you can. Because now Vox is only 35, whereas Box after Jabiru would have been closer to 50. So precisely why you play Jambu in that situation, and then Vox, the counter from Joel, makes this one 48 to 35. Will has found a triple double, though not the good basketball triple double, the sad Scrabble triple double, where you have triple duplicates on your rack. IILLRR and an M for Will. These are not fun racks, but the double L's unlock the back hook to Jambu. It takes a back L and will allow Will to score some points there. RILL, MILL, both options, assuming Will spots the back hook to Jambu, and I'm certain Will knows this word.
Yeah, it looks like RIL just to undouble the R's, and the IMR leave is workable. I don't see much in the way of other options here.
RIL is scary to play because it just takes so many front hooks, and you're setting up the opportunity to front hook it and double. You really don't want to pull the trigger there, and I think that's why we're seeing Will struggle so long here. I don't want to seed the giant hook on what's otherwise a kind of tight board, but I think he has no other option. When your rack is this unflexible, you only have 4 different letters. Like, the options that you have are going to be inflexible as well. So Will's going to take some time, maybe think about playing mill instead, but you just can't justify keeping double R's when you've got an option to get rid of them. I'm also curious to see where he places this? Will he use the first or second L to backhook Jambu? What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I would play it, in the lower orientation just because it opens up, multiple. Well, I guess they both open up multiple lines, but I could also see him doing something like Leerai, which LMR is a less flexible leave, but it does play a bit more defense if that's what he's concerned with here.
Yeah, Leerai kind of forks open this board because it'll allow big 5-tile plays down to the triple, but then also sets up the backhook jambles. Now, Will, after playing Leerai, is not really in good shape to cash on either one of those spots, but Will's going to have to open something on this turn. Leerai makes some sense, but you see Will really aggravating over this turn. I would too. Because I've got the engine open, I know there's nothing else better that really stands out. Maybe you can play LIMAX down to the AX, but I hate holding ILRR. I feel like I'm just asking to score 8 next turn and face a similar decision to the one I'm facing now, and I don't want to do that if I can avoid it.
And while Will deliberates that decision, let's take a quick peek over at Joel's rack, which seems like it should have plenty of potential, but amazingly, no 7s, no 8s on that rack that I see.
Yeah, no 7s, no 8s at all. It looks like you would have some weird something out of that, but nothing. Nobody's home for Joel. And here we go. LIMAX is indeed the play from Will. Definitely non-standard, but I think the longer you look at that, and if you factor in that Will is holding another L to hit the jamble spot next turn, this one might make some sense, actually.
Yeah, and do be cognizant of the C hook potential.
Ooh. Did not think of that, but yeah, the C hook, climax, of course, is a word we all know. When you digest a new word, a lot of the time you're blind to the hook on it. I didn't know the word limax at CSW only, but I do know the word climax for sure. All right, so Will has 2 L's to cash the jamble spot. He does not take it, and Joel has the other 2 L's. All 4 L's were on the player's racks with a giant L hook available. And now Joel gets to choose how to cash in on the jamble spot, or if he wants to do it at all. BELL, BHEL, or just BEL. Each play in the jamble spot, and each look like solid options. Which of those do you like, Mike? And tell us why.
I would be leaning towards, it depends on how useful you think the H is going to be on future turns, in the relative near future, as to whether you'd want to do the BHEL option or just BEL. I would be inclined, given that both M's are gone, the H is not going to be dangerous next to that triple word score. So I would probably lean that way, try to be a little bit closer to a bingo with the ELS. This is not a great board for either scoring. Okay, so he's going to play BHEL, but up to the left instead. It's curious. Maybe he's unaware of the jamboule hook.
Limax also almost screams that it was a setup. Like not scream, but when you've got that L, you think it's going to get played on jamble a lot of the time. Now we know that Will didn't take the spot because he had another L. And you can also determine that a player of Will's caliber, of Will's rating, he didn't bypass jamble because he doesn't know it. 15 or 1700 player, maybe they missed it, maybe they don't know the word, but Will absolutely does. He's a beast. So I don't know what exactly was the thinking there from Joel, but he ends up blocking a great option of Will's. It's CINQ and climax. He picked up the C. He did not set up the C. He picked up the C. So Joel maybe sniffing out danger when there was no danger, but blocking the threat appropriately. And this turn went from very easy for Will to extremely hard. There's nothing good to do. CIRL and jamble is Quackle's top option. NIRL is its second choice right now, but that's terrible. QUIN plays for 13 through the U in Jambu, or you exchange here? How would you approach this turn, Mike?
I've been accused of being a little bit trigger happy on exchanges, and but I would be leaning that way here just because none of your options leave you with good options next turn. I mean, if 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 something like CIRL were setting up my Q, the QI for a great score next turn, I might lean that way. But as it stands, the best way from my perspective to score well over the aggregate of the next 2 or 3 turns is to take 0 this turn and try to draw into something bigger next turn.
Yeah, when the Q is left on your rack, it raises so many question marks. You always have to adjust the letters that you're keeping to the board and the shape of it. So S's change a lot in value based on whether S hooks are available. X's change a lot in value based on whether there are blue squares next to vowels or not. And the Q changes a ton in value as well, both based on the shape of the board and the unseen pool. It's just such a Trojan horse in Scrabble. And I don't see good Q options at all on this board. And I still don't see any after CIRL. Will can be bailed out after CIRL if he picks up an I and can play CINQ. But otherwise, he's stuck holding onto this Q not just next turn, but 2, maybe even 3 more turns. And against a player as good as Joel, you can't get bogged down in the weeds. You know he's going to score points on you. But I think you have to do it here. And Will agrees. CIRL, stare at it. Will's had 2 back-to-back very aggravating turns, but I think he's navigated at least this one correctly. And he's just got to hope that he pulls CINQ or maybe a U to help him jettison this Q next turn. CIRL to play for Will puts him ahead 100 to 57, but it feels like he's getting crushed in this one because of the difficult decisions he's had to make. He is about to get crushed in this one. Joel's got a great rack, EILOSS blank, and a number of bingos backhooking jambles available for him here. I think we're going to see him just kind of decide on one pretty quickly and move on. He's got S loins, ESLOINS set up right now. That's 78. 2 other bingos play for 78. SOLIVES and SMOILES, both playing with jambles as well. Would you look to keep the board open with something like S loins, or would you play a bingo starting in an S in this situation, Mike?
My style is to be more open, but that doesn't necessarily make it right. If you can get a read off Will, given his demeanor and how much he's struggled over these past couple of turns, that his rack is not particularly good, that he's not keeping good leaves, then it might be worth keeping things a little bit more open to take advantage of the fact that Will is struggling right now. If you think that if you're more concerned with long term just keeping the board closed against someone with Will's word knowledge, then you might be more inclined to play something that doesn't open up the RE blank hook on the K column. It looks like Joel's opting for the more open structure with S loins.
Yeah, so opening up that column to the right side, backhooking RE, that's going to stay open for bingo opportunities for a while. Opting to play offense here is Joel Wapnick, as loins for 78 puts him ahead 100 to 135. And Will has not found the I he needs for CINQ. He's got more duplicates, 2 R's, 2 T's, that clunky Q, and an E and an N. 2 options for Will here. QIN plays through the I in as loins. Oh, is this a challenge?
Looks like it.
Was this a misdesignated blank, or are we just seeing a challenge on maybe jambles?
Looks like the blank was circled correctly. I can see a little faint marking around the N. Or that may just be dust on my screen. I'm not sure.
Maybe Will's just not 100% sure the jamble takes the L. Maybe that adds extra complication to what was already a complicated situation. Will kind of dismissively waving his hand there. So I guess just ceding the 5 extra points. I don't know which word was challenged. I doubt it was as loins because that seems like one Will would have studied 1,000 times. Maybe just making sure that jamble takes the back S. But 5 extra points, I'm guessing, for Joel makes this 140 to 100. And Will, QIN or Jotter, Jotter, are the only 2 plays that make any sense at all here. I think you've got to play QIN and eject the Q, right, Mike?
Yeah. Well, Will apparently does not agree with us. And, I guess his reasoning would be that QIN is reasonably likely to still be there next turn, and unduplicating everything is more. I guess you can do those 2 plays in either order, and this gives him more ways to be bailed out, in his opinion. I'm not sure I agree. I would be inclined to just dump the QN, worry about the double R, double T later. You still have the S open and the C open, and that there are places to bingo if you draw a couple of vowels. But
maybe Will feels, hey, if I hold this Q, I really don't know. Like QIN just felt so obviously right there, and I'm not prepared to offer any analysis why Will played Jotter. I'm sure there's a good reason. Will's brilliant. I just don't see it right now. So, chat, maybe help us out. But we'll shift over to Joel, who has ADGIRTW. No good plays, a bunch of mid 20 pointers or low 20 pointers available. So Joel gets to use this turn to construct the board the way he wants. Chat suggesting maybe draws into Trank, draws into CINQ after Jotter. I guess your plan was to draw CINQ, so if you missed the I one time, then just go looking for it again. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know.
So, looking over at Joel's rack, I'm seeing something like GAWD hooking red for 22, leaving IRT, which is serviceable.
And what you don't want to do is make a 4-tile play on the left side of Jotter, something like DAWT in that spot. You don't want to expose a triple if you can at all avoid it. You're already ahead a little bit in this game. So something like GAWD and RED makes some sense. I would like to try to find a setup for myself if possible here, but I'm not seeing any good ways that do, or any good plays that do that either. WITGAT plays through the T in Jotter. That's a fun word. Witgat. Also a decent play. I don't know. There's a lot of intermediate options here for Joel, and they're all very similar, but he's going to take his time and try to find one that helps him build a cool path, helps him make a good 2-turn plan.
And that is frequently the way to, you're always thinking, if all of your plays look similar, what's going to help you out next turn? The counterpoint to that is if all of your plays are reasonably close in valuation to each other, then it can be worth it from a time management perspective to simply say, you know what, none of these are, I can't be too far wrong just picking the one I like best and playing it fairly quickly to conserve time for later turns.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to come up with a plan to navigate these waters when you're in these weird situations. The IG combination actually okay in this situation because ING bingos bingo down making REG, and there are 6 unseen Ns. So the G is usually a tile that I avoid like the plague, and most players try to get rid of as soon as possible. But in this instance, I'm not actually opposed to trying to hold on to that. I'd be looking maybe to play DAW or WAD in some spots. This is, oh man, the longer I look at this turn for Joel, the more I'm like, I just don't know what to do. And I think, especially being on stream, I might just have a little breakdown and spend 7 minutes staring at like 12 options that all feel extremely similar and then just pick one.
Yeah.
This is really tricky. This is really, really tricky.
And which goes back to the idea of if you're going to just have to pick one quickly. And it looks like he's playing
some major offense here. WADT, the play. I said you don't want to make a 4-letter play here and expose the triple triple, but maybe you actually do. This does exactly what I was saying. Hold the IG combination with 5 or 6 unseen ends, and now you're creating multiple places for your place to score. Joel is gunning for offense here. He might get burned, but he feels like the payoff makes the risk worth it. And what has he found? AGINOR and another R. Garrison Roaring. Yeah, he's found it. Okay. So he will bingo. A little bit of a gambit there for Joel, but pays off tremendously for him.
And Will, having had his big play of Trank through the R of Jotter blocked, now looks at. He can still clear the queue finally. He can play something like Kintar or Kindar through the Eye of his loins. That looks on the surface like the play, though. Will has a habit of surprising us with, coming up with plays that we, good but not world class. I would say players are capable of finding. So I would play Kindar. I will be curious to see if Will comes up with something different, but looks like he has that lined up.
Yeah, Kindar, I think, is what you got to do here after Trank was taken away. Maybe Kintar instead of Kindar for reasons, but I think you just take the points here. 32, keep the board open. All of that makes sense to me.
And not being able to interfere with the triple will hurt. I mean, you could consider Cot for 36, but leaving 5 consonants does not feel like a viable path.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of inference Will was picking up after WADT. Like, it seems really weird to expose a triple triple in that situation. So I feel like a blank is in Joel's range a good amount of the time after WADT, and Will's got to be like looking at that with a lot of alarm bells going off. It's a lot easier to approach Will's turn if I know Joel's rack. I know Joel's rack. Will's got a lot more fog of war to try to figure out and decipher here. But I think, yeah, you have no choice. You have to play Kindar. You have to try to work through this stuff. You have to get rid of the queue that has been bogging you down for so long. So after Kindar, Will trails by just 2, 158 to 160. But Joel's Gambit, playing offense, holding GIR, worked to perfection. Roaring lined up for him, and he'll have to choose between Roaring and Reg for 70 or one other playable bingo for 62 on this turn that does not expose a triple triple. And this was your chance to pause it or mute me. I'm going to go ahead and spoil it now. That second bingo plays to the A that was just exposed in Kindar. That is Rangiora, Rangiora for 62. Mike, do you score 70 and open the triple triple, or do you play Rangiora here for 62?
I'm leaning toward Roaring simply because opening a second triple is less dangerous, because if Will scores well on one, you're likely to be able to score well on the other. And also Kindar doesn't really tell you much about Will's rack. It's essentially random, so having triple triples open is not nearly as dangerous. My style would be to take the extra points, but But I can see the argument for playing a bit more defensively, although this board's going to be wide open pretty much no matter what you do.
You would like to take control of the shape of the board if you're going to pull ahead by a bingo, but there's just so much open that I think you have to decide as Joel, like, whatever, we're just playing open Scrabble today. I'm going to score as many points as I can, and you're going to have to try to keep up. Roaring for 70. I don't think you can sacrifice 8 in this situation, not with the Kindar's hook available, not with the T and the triple available. And I think you need points here. Yeah. But I like that Joel is taking his time and really thinking this one through. I'm sure he's identified both of these bingos, and he's going to make sure he makes the decision that sits best with him and his play style. I expect that's going to be roaring. And here it comes.
That's what's coming down.
I think maybe you pull the trigger on Ringiora if it doesn't put the I right next to the double letter square next to that triple word, but you just get hit with like Zinc or Zine pretty often. It's not really defensive, even though it kind of looks defensive. Mm-hmm. I think Joel did the right thing here. And Will THNRTVZ on his rack has exactly one play that makes any sense. And it is 40 points better than all of his other options. VOZHD, 58 points. Will has to be very pleased to see that O where it is and absolutely bailed out of a devastating draw otherwise.
Yeah. And this is, in a lot of ways, the nature of CSW play more so than NWL, where you frequently have these situations where there is one word that, scores a ton of points, and if you don't know it, you're going to be in a world of hurt.
Yeah, and so Will does indeed know the word. Will knows all the words, and Vaj comes down for him. Joel has picked up the OU combination that synergizes oh so well with that T in the third spot of a triple-triple. He came very close to outgains or some other options, but not quite there. He does have good bailout plays from an otherwise nasty rack, AGINOUU, but outgain, its anagram autoing, and outgun all play through the T in the bottom here. So while this rack looks bad, he's got exactly what he needs in space to get out of it and score some points in the process. Mike, would you play outgun for 27 and hold AI, or would you play outgain for 30 or autoing for 27, holding a U?
It would definitely be autoing over outgain just because of leaving the S hook, with the potential for a bunch of points on the triple. But I think I'm liking. Actually, looking at the unseen pool, there's still plenty of vowels to play, so I think I'm liking autoing just to clear the extra vowel, even though it keeps a U with the Q already gone, but still get rid of more vowels and keep the tiles circulating, keep scoring points and take out that triple, which is going to prove necessary because Will has just picked up the blank.
A great draw from Will. So he was looking dead just a few minutes ago. 7 consonants after slogging through the queue for 3 turns. But Joel's bingo of roaring gives back Vajd, and then he picks up an incredible draw here. He has Stentor, or its anagram Snotter, backhooking VOZHD for 92 points. He did not have a triple-triple down at the bottom of the board. Whoa, and what a terrible draw for Joel. Oh my God, UUYYFGN. Whoa, this game just took a massive swing. And here comes Stentor. Whoa.
92 to give Will the lead back, looking like 308, 262.
Yeah, 257 or 262. Yes, 262 the score for Joel on the +5. And a terrible draw here. Now, Will is drawing into a bag that contains 23 vowels and 14 consonants. Will is probably going to find trouble here. Actually, it's even worse. I think the unseen pool hasn't updated to Joel's rack, and Joel's sitting on a number of consonants too. Yeah, 19 vowels and 11 consonants for Will. Scrabble's a game with 56 consonants and 42 vowels. And it's very unusual you see this uneven a distribution. Will's got to find some consonants. The DW is going to give him some relief. But that's, oh, he's got a K too. So great draw for Will. He'll be able to score out of a pool that really doesn't have a lot of scoring options available. And Joel's going to be able to score as well. Fundy, Fundy, plays through the D in Kendar for 32, holding GUY. Fudgy also plays through that same D, 26, and holds NUY. Tell us how you would navigate between those two plays, Mike.
Well, now that the board has become more spread out, there aren't really a lot of, there's surprisingly few bingo lines open, and none of them really. Yeah, I would be inclined to get rid of the G just because it really does not synergize with the U and the Y particularly well. But 6 points is 6 points, and this game is close enough that you're going to need every point you can get, especially against Will.
Yeah, 6 points is 6 points. I think the scoring is just going to be at a premium here. But oh my, that unseen pool looks so bad. There are 8 unseen E's to Joel right now at this stage of the game. That's ridiculous. All right,
and somehow Will has none of them.
Somehow Will has none of them. Yes, I would not be surprised if Joel goes into the bag and draws E or EEEI right now. This is going to be really strange. The end of this game. So Fundy, the play from Joel, gives him 294 points to Will's 308. Both players with strange racks, strange leaves, and strange letters yet to draw. Has Joel found the E's? There's one. There's an A. There's an O. And a C. All right, so 7 E's still in the bag at this stage of the game. This is ridiculous. This is going to be fun to watch and fun to watch these players struggle through.
Yeah, I mean, everybody at this level can score well when they draw good tiles. It's how well you score when you're drawing bad tiles that separates the elite players from the next tier.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And how quickly can you get out of the bad racks as well? Some players get stuck in the weeds for 4 or 5 turns at a time. Some are able to play their way out in 1 and 2. Now, we know there's probably not going to be playing out of the weeds with this awful unseen pool, but it's possible. Wood, the play for Will, puts on scoring pressure. 341 to 294 will be the score after this. Looks like the players are double counting it, trying to make sure we're all on the same page here. My computer has this at 33. So 33 points is what they're going to come to on the conclusion there. And Joel Wapnick now, ACEGOUY, has probably his most important decision of the game. He has one play that scores 38 points. And that play is sneaky, hard to find, plays down to the U in the word autoing. That play is Koyau, Coyau. Holds EGU as a leave in a pool with a ton of vowels, but it scores very well. You may also consider UEY, UE, like a U-turn at the top left side of this board, making EW and yob. I think that helps him stay out of vowel trouble a little bit better. There's a lot for him to think about here, what letters he wants to keep, a very strange bag, and oh, look at him, he spotted it. It's hard to even think about playing down to that U. That's really nice from Joel. Well spotted.
Those are the sort of plays that, similar to Vosges, you just kind of have to know the word and see it, and Joel did.
He knew the word, he saw it, and now I think 7 unseen E's still for Joel. Will still has no E's on his rack and saw Joel just not play an E off. Somebody's going to draw E at some point. I just don't know who's going to do it and when it's going to happen. Oh, well, right on cue, there's Joel drawing EEEF. All right. The E's have finally come out. Not all of them, but a few. Crucially, there are also 2 unseen S's and a big spot to use an S, backhooking Kindar, hitting that triple word score. Will's got to feel scared that no S's have been, or, that he doesn't have one and there's 2 unseen. But we also know that Joel doesn't have an S. He just got all the E's. Both players have to feel bad about their chances of winning this game. But all the good stuff is still in the bag and all the E's on Joel's rack now. What do you say, Mike? Advantage Will in this one just because he's on turn right now?
Because he's on turn, he has the slight lead. He has the K, which can score pretty well at this point. He can play something like either Crate, Krait, through the R of Kindar, somewhat mitigating the potential of that S, or possibly completely blocking it. Also something like, I'm seeing Priapai through that R, if he wants to keep the K for scoring later. That does open up the triple, but there's not really a lot of ways that can hurt him.
Yeah, I'm looking at Krait holds IPP. And with a gazillion unseen vowels, I would love to try to play off more of my vowels and keep more of my consonants. Crate does exactly that. It sets up the big back S hook. But looking at the unseen pool from Will's perspective, like I can get burned by agonize, and otherwise it's like fuse or infuse is about the worst that Joel can do. Crate scores well enough that I can probably survive fuse. And if he has agonize, well, it's just not my day. So I think Crate looks to be Will's best path to victory here. But with 8 minutes to spare, Will's going to take his time on this turn, and he should for sure.
Yeah, there's also the possibility, if you don't want to interfere with that and you're willing to concede, 40. Again, what's the worst that Joel can do with the Kindar's hook? It's something like Snafu. Would be 47-ish. Your rack is better set up to take advantage of that hook. So, but I was going to suggest something like Kip hooking Deli and Lip up on column F, which Kip or Pip scores reasonably well. Doesn't play off as many tiles, so there's less. So you're drawing fewer from a bad bag.
The more I look at this, the more I kind of like Priapai. It's a really hard word to spot. It's the plural of priapus, and if you don't know the definition of that, you can go ahead and look it up. But that's Priapai plays off all of your vowels. It holds that K to score, and I don't. Well, no, Priapai. I don't see good ways for the F to kill you. Oh, FEES would be devastating though. FEES or something in that vein. So no, you can't play Priapai here, as much as you'd love to play all your vowels.
It looks like
you got to play Crate. Will does. Yep. He's going to be pleased to go in. I bet he picks up at least one of those S's, and he's going to feel much better about his win percentage after that. So tough turn from Will, but he navigates it excellently. Keep both P's on your rack, knowing that a deluge of vowels is on its way. Good choice. EEFGU, the rack for Joel. And I was talking about Wasim last game with a rack he's probably never drawn before in his life. I bet this is a rack Joel Wapnick has never drawn before in his life either. This is yucky.
So, given what you're looking at in the unseen pool, you have to think that if Will gets a play hooking crates, the game is over. So you almost are forced into, as absurd as it might look, just blocking, with something like FEE on column O, and just hoping that Will's rack is ugly enough that he can't navigate these last turns. And as we see, that's exactly what's happened.
Yeah, it's desperation time for Joel. You have to assume the goodies are in the bag, I think. Like, even if you block after crate, your EEGU leave is just not going anywhere. But I have no idea. And Joel's running out of time, too. This could come down to a tight end game. So what he did is probably what you have to do now. Just play FEE and see what happens. This leaves 4 in the bag. It keeps pacing about where you want it to be, trying to catch up. But Joel's got to understand his odds are pretty slim here. Now, we know AASS in the bag and an N, and Will's got absolute garbage. I don't know who's going to win this game. Joel's got an S. Does he get an N? Oh, he's got an A. Okay, the N would have made this very spicy. But I think we've still got a spicy game. 379 for Will, 357 for Wapnick. 4 in the bag, and I think if you're Will, you have to assume Joel had a neither S last turn. He would have almost definitely cashed it in with a play like Fees or Fuse if he had one. But he probably went in and drew at least one right now. Will's got to try to make sure he's got to look for bingos through the B, maybe that play. Make sure he's assessing those threats. I don't see anything. Will's got to score some points. Will probably doesn't want to empty the bag. This is a really, really hard turn for Will because of his poor draw. What do you see here, Mike?
Well, if you want to address the B, even though, as you said, I don't see much in the way of possibilities, but just to, if you want,
there's exactly one possible playable bingo through the B unseen to Will, and it is unbiases for 63.
Okay, so if you feel like addressing that threat, then something on column F hooking DEL and LI, something like pi or maybe even pip is a possibility if you want to make sure you score enough, even though you're going to draw more vowels to the vowels you already have. It's going with peep, emptying the bag and keeping EII, but I guess he figures that's going to score enough to outrun even the worst racks.
Yeah, Will pausing and looking at the board like there's nothing else I'm missing. He's emptying the bag by making this play, and he will lose to an out bingo 100% of the time. But the way this board is shaped, there's just not the line to play an out bingo. So Peep should do it for Will, despite the clunky rack. He had other options. Hippie, HIPPIE, played down from the H. That looked awesome, but you have to take your 98% wins and convert them to 100. You can't play hippie and lose to unbiases. Pete, I feel like, has to win 100% of the time for Will. He feels the same. He plays it, and then he reaches into the bag and draws AENS. He has to feel much better after that pull.
And trying to work through Joel's best endgame here, knowing that Will's rack was fairly clunky, and if he can set up an out in 2 that should at least minimize the spread damage. I'm wondering if there's a way to use the Z of Vosges, maybe just CEE, if that sets up an outplay anywhere.
Yeah, it holds on to one outplay, SAGUIN, it looks like. Actually, no, it holds 2. It also holds AGUISE and crates. So ZEE holds 2 outplays. There's your out in 2. ZEE immediately to either SAGUIN or AGUISE. That is Joel's endgame. It doesn't win him the game, but it at least makes it kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it probably is enough to at least force Will to play a valid word.
Yes. And I mean, both players threaten ZEE right now, so I think Joel wants to take that away from Will, score it himself, and go out into ZEE is easily the best in game according to the engine, but not enough.
Joel just double checking his tracking, making sure he knows exactly what Will's rack is at this point.
And this is just wow, what a ridiculous game. Will had like a roller coaster of emotions. He felt great at the beginning and then got through some terrible Q racks and then drew a bunch of consonants, but then scored 50 something out of them with Vajj and then hit Stentor. Just a roller coaster of emotions for both players in this game.
And then as the game progressed, both players were looking at a pool of really awkward and ugly tiles, and it basically both blanks went early, multiple S's went early, the JQX all went, and Z all went early, so there wasn't much left for either of them to draw, and we'll just navigated it slightly better here to apparently pull this out. Joel setting up Z's, it looks like, which I don't think is an improvement because I don't see what outplay that leaves.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that one either. But it's tough to spot the sequence of either SAGUIN or AGUISE. Yeah, now he's got it set up just EE. I think he's going to figure out if that S helps him go out. Wow, my brain hurts. We've only done 3 games, and all 3 of them had just oodles of weird, complicated, interesting positions. Here comes Joel doing exactly what we expect from a world champion or former world champion, finding his optimal endgame sequence. And again, Will has to make almost any valid word to win this game, though I have blown a game at a Nationals where I was faced with exactly this situation. Any valid word wins. I played a phony. So don't do that, Will.
I think we've all been guilty of that at one time or another. None of Will's options look particularly appetizing. Sorry.
Yeah, I think you want to knock out a guy's AGUISE and crates. So Engine's preferred play is SAI, SIF, and ATE in that spot for 21. Just take it away, make Joel have the lower scoring outplay. Denies plays down from the D and Vajj for 21. That's also an option, but most valid plays will do it for Will here. Actually, not too many valid plays do it for him. It's like 15 or so, but he's got it. This is round 3 of the 2024 Scrabble Players Championship, a 31-game tournament hosted in South Bend, Indiana, brought to you by NASPA, the North American Scrabble Players Association. All 5 days of this event are going to be broadcast right here on twitch.tv/Scrabble. We'll be starting at 9 Eastern time every day. So adjust your time zones accordingly. We'll be bouncing back and forwards between NWL and CSW play across the tournament. We're showing CSW this morning, but NWL this afternoon. We've got a number of people to say thank you to, and I'll be doing that periodically across the stream. But the first shout out goes to tournament director and organizer Art Moore and the whole team of people working with and behind him. It takes an absolute village of volunteers to run a tournament this large, 300 folks plus at this event. And Art just does so much tireless work to put this all together. He's been our director extraordinaire of this event for several years now and has no signs of slowing down. He always does a stellar job, such a sacrifice of his time and energy. So thank you very much, Art Moore, our tournament director.
Well, making use of every minute of his clock. He's down under a minute here. At some point, you will just find, the best play you have found so far, and take that and be done, and hopefully be done with it. And it looks like
you can go with ENS up here is one of his highest scoring options at all. EANS, another high scoring option. But rather than taking away one of the outs, actually, this now allows Joel to not go out. Joel's best endgame looks to be a weird convoluted stick situation and a slow play. Oh yeah, IS and Kindars and KI, and then that sets up GAU and GIF to go out at the bottom. So Joel actually now can slow play Will because Will's left such terrible tiles on his rack. But he may just go out.
so he's going to play Quag instead.
Okay.
Is not too much. It's a few points worse than GAU, but
6
is a similar idea.
And now Will's best sequence, as he has 20 seconds to figure this out, is to block Kindar's IS and KI. He can just drop his E, make NEK the 3-letter play. That would be his best sequence, but he's run out of time. He can't go over right now. He's just going to play Idea, seed the major outplay to Joel. And then after all that, looks like IS from Joel is going to make this one 433 for the Canadian to 445 for Will. A back and forwards game where both players drew a lot of very head-scratching racks and made big decisions. Oh, he's missed the better out. But they're both so low on time. Just, yeah, it makes sense. All right. So Quags and SI the out for Joel. I called this one too soon. Our final is going to be 425 to 445. Will's advantage here. But in either case, it doesn't change the fact that this was an awesome game. We're 3 for 3 on cool games with stuff to learn in this one. And a lot of interesting mid-game decisions for both players here.
Yeah, and as we said, the game's easy when you're drawing well. It's navigating these turns where not only are the tiles on your rack bad, but so are the tiles in the bag, and navigating how you're going to avoid the worst case scenarios and how bad things can be for your opponent, even if what can they draw, what can they have, and navigating all of that. This was a great lesson in that from two masters of the game.
Yeah, I'm going to check. I know last year we had an overhead mic available and we could catch this post-game banter. I want to hear if we're able to get that. I'm going to check if we can get that from our production team on this stream. If we can, let's cut over and listen to these guys. I'm sure we're going to have some post-mortem going on. Seems like we do not have overhead mic, at least not up and running right now. So alas, we'll have to wait for Will to drop a video of this. Oh, it is on right now. Okay, I'll shut up.
All right. Yeah, definitely. The pool was so weird.
It was, yeah, so many dollars at the end. And I was trapped, so I had no idea what was kind of. Towards the end, I just went over the board and took everything out. And I guess I got all of the words, the letters right except for the.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forgot. I didn't track properly. And this here was roaring 9 plus 1.
Plus a Y? Plus a T?
Well, that's what I'm looking at.
I highly doubt it.
No, AEMSWZ. So,
Yeah,
I guess it's
I'm sure you have to do that. That failed this in a huge way. I had all consonants.
I don't think there was any other.
You have to. Yeah.
Oh, wait. Ramsey-Aura doesn't fit.
Yeah.
I would have missed it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
It's purely academic.
RANGI. Oh, no, it doesn't fit. Okay, good game.
All right. Yeah, it's a good one. Back and forth.
Autoing, I left myself with a U.
Yeah, surely you have to do that. Yeah, of course. Okay. Do you take pictures of the board?
No.
Okay.
Oh,
All right. So yeah, just both players. A lot to think about after that turn. You see Joel saying Rangiora doesn't fit on the board. It did, but there's no way it was the best thing for him to do. Will, realizing how fortunate he was to pull the VOZHD play out of the bag, and then the Stentor bingo next turn was the huge swing of events. But a lot for both of these players to just kind of shake off. I would take all 10 minutes of my 10-minute break after a tight game like that, really walk around, get my blood flowing. But there's a lot more Scrabble to be played for both of these players. We're going to have a very brief break, but you guys should not go anywhere. Our next game is going to be Matthew Tunnicliffe and Josh Sokol in a clash of the Canadian Titans. We'll be back in just a few minutes with that game. Will be our final CSW game of the day and our final game before lunch. Don't go anywhere. Matthew Tunnicliffe, Josh Sokol, right up next.